name is Sarah Niles. I am going to talk about something that's been bothering people within their families for generations and never talked about openly. Narcissistic family systems and the behavior that causes so much trouble, especially during holidays. The forums are full after Christmas of people complaining about being attacked during family gatherings physically, being put down under stress, feeling as though they're children again, although they're adults, and being abused, or vice versa. Adult family members being abused by adult family members. And this is not all just partner related. It's generational dysfunction. So what is it in these families that causes so much strife and trouble? A narcissistic family system is like a government. It has a main leader or some lieutenants and a main leader, and it has the subordinates. It's like a gang as well, who follow the rules, the unspoken rules that you learned from childhood. For example, if you are in a narcissistic family, fused, and the reason why fused is so important is because a fused family operates like a gang. You're either all in or you're all out. You follow the rules or you end up being targeted as a scapegoat and subject to reparations and blame and all sorts of trouble, phone calls and arguments and innuendos and accusations and all sorts of stress that a lot of people don't want to face, so they simply avoid confrontation within the family. So how does this develop? How does a narcissistic family system develop? First of all, there are degrees of narcissism, and basically we're talking about abusive behavior that goes from the lighter end to the heavier end, from the less serious to the most serious. And in order to prove a point, we're going to use the serious situations in which people are subject to violent language, violent emotions, and even violent behavior, especially under pressure. This develops usually over generations. There's usually abuse somewhere when it began. The primary narcissist became a narcissist over time. There's no such thing as a child narcissist. You have children in development who are being trained by watching the behaviors, experiencing the feelings, the suppression, the drama, the walking on eggshells. This is a training course. And if you are reared in this family, and all of your family members who love you are also in this family, you're in a toxic family system and your normal is altered. For example, family gatherings where people yell and holler and curse at each other and have a fit over the least little thing, if that's normal for a child, the child usually picks up the same behavior. If there's a family where there's a dominant member or members who get control of things by bullying, verbally bullying, women tend to do this more than men because they have more verbal power. People use what they have. And the reason this develops is because people are triggered by childhood issues in most cases. They're triggered by their original family that limited their power in their expression, or perhaps they were abused and never validated. So in time, they develop attitudes that are focused on, I will be all for me and nobody else. And if an adult incorporates this into their thinking, they tend to become selfish, controlling, dominant, and if they do not check themselves or someone doesn't check them, they get worse. Because it's not a one-time thing. You don't just wake up one morning and you are a narcissistic, abusive person. It's little bitty things that happen over time. Eventually, conditioning occurs in which a person or persons gets rewarded for being bullying and dominant. They get their way. And once that happens, the reward system is in place for them to continue to do it, or reach a fork in the road in which they turn back. And many people have done this. Now, if you turn back from dysfunctional behaviors, you're going to have to do some serious work. And a lot of people don't like work, emotional work, psychological work, because it requires them to be vulnerable, to say there's something wrong, I need to fix it. It requires them to be humble. I was wrong, I need to fix it. And it requires them to care more for the feelings and the welfare of others than for being right or for their own, getting their own way. And this is one of the missing pieces that's lost in generational dysfunction, because everybody is trained to be out for themselves, not for the other person. That conditioning is hard to break. And as you know, because many of you have done it, it can be done, and it is being done. And there are even some statistics. For example, if you have 4 people in a family that is extremely abusive in every possible way, the worst it can be, one of them will not replicate that abuse by self-abusing as adults, because that is one way it's done, abusing and controlling others as adults, or turning it inward. Some people become suicidal and depressed. One person will escape that, even in a family that bad. There's a book called A Child Called It by David Seltzer. And I imagine some of you have read it, but in that book, this child had a spirit of caring that lasted through the abuse. And that's what happens when you survive and you turn your focus on being positive, upbuilding, and constructive. Because within a narcissistic family system, one of the things that they focus on is win no matter what. And even if it involves destroying reputations, telling lies, manipulation, hurting feelings, it is a win no matter what attitude. And this attitude prevents a person from turning when they reach the fork in the road. Do you do the right thing? Do you do the wrong thing? Because the wrong thing for people raised this way is usually the easiest way, the path of least resistance. And that is why narcissism within families is increasing over the years. It's becoming a pandemic. It is spreading out into communities and even governments. So during these holidays on the forums, I've noticed complaints about family estrangement. These complaints are from parents and adult children, uncles and aunts. Family estrangement isn't